Mm-hmm. All right, I muted it. Yeah, maybe for the best.
Definitely.
Okay.
I'm a big Zach Fair Crisis Core fan. That is like I am ride or die Zach Fair to the end of time. If everyone's like I love Cloud, I'm like no you don't. You don't love Cloud. You love someone else, and you need to
That's
get
interesting.
you need to get educated, my friend. Um, but yeah, I mean, I when Crisis Core got remade, I was like the one guy that was like, let's go. This thing was so up my alley, and then I played it at Summer Games Fest, and I really enjoyed it. And then as it got closer, I was like, this is gonna have a lot of predatory stuff that's gonna make me
Yeah.
sad because that dumb completionist tick in me is gonna go. But what if I just spend $10 to get there? What if I just spend a? And I had to swear it off. I had to swear it off.
Okay. All right. Well, you won't be tempted to buy Tifa's lifeguard outfit if you're just watching on YouTube, which it's
How
it's
much
a
is
weird
that
way to
going
go.
for?
Oh, you wouldn't want to know. It's a horrific amount. But there's cool stuff. Like they have kind of origin stories, quote unquote origin to entering Midgar, I guess, for some characters in like these unlockable stories where you can see Tifa going to Midgar for the first time. And, she learns how to navigate the mean streets of Midgar from Jesse. And like that relationship isn't even played up that much in remakes. That's fun to see. You get to see Aerith in Midgar for the first time. And she's just desperate to go on a picnic, and there's cool stuff with her mom in there. Like you see Cloud entering Seventh Heaven for the first time, which it turns out, Gerard, is the day before the bombing mission. I always thought the Cloud had been around for a while, but it's like, oh no, it's just the next day. She's like, oh yeah, here you go. Here's a mission for you, new guy. Jump in there.
Interesting.
So the big meat and potatoes of this though is it's confusing. So Square Enix released that Battle Royale Final Fantasy VII game, which was called First Soldier, which
Is
was
that still going?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, okay.
They pulled the plug on that within a year of it being around.
Which scares me because there's a lot of work going into Ever Crisis here, and if they're yanking that other game, like, are they going to remake all of these Final Fantasy VII games and then just pull it off store shelves if it's not doing as well? But what's confusing is they pulled the PUBG clone set in the Final Fantasy VII universe called First Soldier off the store, but within Ever Crisis, there is a whole story and little RPG experience that's called First Soldier, which apparently has some characters that tied into the Battle Royale. But the core of this is that it's Sephiroth's origin story, which is really cool. So there's 5 chapters of it so far, and it focuses on other soldier members of soldier PO class. And so it's like Glenn, Matt, and Lucia. And this sounds like nonsense. However, in the latest Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer, there's a mysterious hooded character, if you remember him, walking around Junon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so the leading theory is that's Glenn, who has that same goatee from a First Soldier game
Glenn
in
Lodbrok.
Ever Crisis, the mobile game.
Wait.
So Sephiroth comes in like chapter 4, and it's just fun because he's got like cute short hair. And
yeah,
he's just like,
it's not that long hair, boy. It's very short.
Yeah, and he's just a weird kid is kind of his tone. He's basically been raised in Hojo's lab, so it's fun to see him interact with other people, and it's his first mission he's ever gone on. And there's some cool tidbits of Final Fantasy VII lore in there, but if you're a big Sephiroth fan, you want to see him being a weirdo, and he's trying to like rally the other troops and soldier, and he's whistling for them. And eventually Glenn goes up and he says, hey, Sephiroth, you're just a punk ass kid. Like, if you whistle again, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. You can't do that to us. And then Sephiroth is like, oh, shucks. He goes, I apologize for whistling, team. I didn't mean to offend anybody. He's just awkward teen boy. And it's really cool to see him in almost like an Anakin Skywalker type way. Like, even by chapter 5, he's already starting to break bad. So it's, again, cool stuff. Just watch it on YouTube, everybody. Don't deal with the mobile game if you're scared off by it, because there's cool stuff in there.
Yeah, because I actually played a little bit of it when I was at Summer Games Fest. I was so impressed by the production values on it. I
Yeah,
was like,
yep.
damn, man, these guys are seriously like, there's a lot going on here. Like, they put a lot of money behind this. Clearly, this doesn't just happen. But yes, when it comes to the gacha stuff, I'm like, no, thank you very much. And you're right as well. That other concern about, is this going to stick around? And like, is this all this work that goes into this? If Square decide to pull the plug, which they eventually will, because they pull the plug on all their live services eventually, then yeah. Oh, here we go. Cameo time.
Hello.
This is Yayo. She's not feeling too good, but she wanted to get picked up for a little bit.
Hello.
Welcome, yayo.
Aw. So other than Ever Crisis, what else have you been playing, Ben?
Apparently I've been playing a lot of phone stuff. I guess having a kid kind of does that to you. You have a lot of time for phone games. And
Marvel Snap, baby. Have you tried Marvel Snap?
I tried it and then got rid of it a while
We're
ago.
gonna come back to this subject after we're finished recording, my friend. Don't worry, I will make the
Okay, I
Marvel Snap
get it.
fan
I
out of
enjoyed
you,
the
yeah,
Ben
don't
Brode
worry.
interview, but I couldn't do it. But Apple Arcade is really good, y'all. I feel
Yeah,
like
it is.
Oh,
nobody
I need to-
talks about it.
I have it, and like, I love Assemble with Care. There's a couple other things on there that I really enjoy, but
There's this game that came out, I think last month, and it's called Finity. Just Finity. I think it's technically
Never heard of
Finity
this.
Dot. But it's such a well-designed little game. It's to boil it down, it's kind of Threes meets Bejeweled.
oh, I'm downloading it immediately.
Yeah. But Threes meets Bejeweled, but then it gets increasingly tricky and has more of a puzzle aspect as you're trying to complete these boards, and they're adding new
Actually,
pieces into it. But incredibly
downloading it
clean
now.
presentation. Like I've been hunting for kind of a Bejeweled replacement on my phone because EA has just let that
Oh, yeah.
deteriorate into nonsense at this point.
Have they really?
Oh yeah,
I
it's,
mean,
it's like a
oof.
free to play, get boosts and power ups, but you can
Oh, I
pay to
see.
get
Yeah.
it.
And I have like
sure.
Bejeweled 3 on my phone, but it's just barely limping along, and there's just ads jumping
BRB. Hello, I am back, yes. Feeling a bit better today. Not a lot though, but a bit.
in at random moments, it's a nightmare. And so to have like the Apple Arcade experience of just here's a clean little
ow.
game that's just gonna be the perfect little game to play vertically. I've had a blast with it, and eventually you can unlock like a music mode that kind of turns it into like a little Tetris effect. It's just clean, great game design that is not getting the love it deserves. But Finity is the name of it, and it's from Seaba is the name of the developer.
That's cool.
Down.
Interesting.
Yeah,
loaded.
I think it's cool that Apple have this arcade thing. They really do put some effort behind it. They just don't make any effort to get the word out about it. Like,
It's tough.
I mean, like, because we, as like fucking the nerds that we are, we see everything that goes on, almost everything that goes on in the core gaming space, and that is a product for core gamers, by the way. Like, sure, it's obviously a product for mobile gamers, absolutely. But mobile gamers are probably going to be playing Candy Crush anyway and PUBG Mobile and all that sort of shit, right? That product is really meant for us because it's like welcoming us into that mobile ecosystem without all the
Yeah.
shit that comes with mobile games. But Apple just don't try and speak to us. Like, when do we see it advertised? When do we see anything with regards to that product? You know what I mean? And I guess it's Apple. Like, they're such a weird sort of mercurial organization. Trying to understand them is pointless. But I don't know. I just think that if they really tried to put that product front and center in front of people like us more, then people would pay attention to it because there's some
I
really
mean,
good stuff on there.
You want Apple on stage during a Jeff Keighley presentation, like that
I mean,
level?
yeah,
of,
like exactly that, right? And because
Yeah.
I really think that if they actually got up on stage and actually showed what this product is, then it could pay some dividends. You know what I mean? Like, it's yeah, I think it's worthwhile, and because I respect the effort behind it. I
Yep.
respect the fact that they're trying to clean up the mobile space, or at least create a corner of it that's just good and pure. And you pay a couple of bucks a month for it, sure, but you're paying a couple of bucks a month for some really excellent games. So that's more than fair in my book.
Yeah, shout out to there's another game that no one's talking about it online, but Sping it's called, and it technically came out I think last year, or the year before, but it's I loved Pixel Junk Eden back in the day, but imagine that type of game if it played really well, and it's just one finger button to like get this string as you're swinging around trying to collect different collectibles. It's an absolute blast, and it really has zero coverage online. But Sping is the name of it. It's from
Sping.
SMG Studio.
Oh, SMG, sure.
SMG.
Do you know them? Of course, yeah, they're
Okay.
Australian, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, sure. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Those
I
are the-
actually
I know those guys. There's a
chat
mo-
with the
it's-
studio boss actually quite regularly, and he's
Yeah,
never,
me
I wonder if
too.
he's
He's a-
watching.
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
and he's
he-
never mentioned this to me. So
the moving,
dude, what are
they,
you
they
doing?
did moving out 2,
Yes.
Death Squared. Those are
Oh,
great
what?
games.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 That's so funny.
Yeah,
That's
Super,
so
Mo-
strange.
Super One
Sping,
More
all right,
Jump.
well,
yeah.
Check it
Sping,
out.
Oh, there we
It's a
go.
great little
I'm gonna do
game.
that. I'm gonna check it
Yeah.
out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will go because I know, Ralph, you've got a new piece of tech that I definitely want to ask you about. But I just want to quickly give a shout out to Chance of Senar.
So excited for this.
Oh, right.
So I also want to
yeah.
give a shout out to Mark Brown over on Game Maker's Toolkit because he has a
No,
series
it's
where he basically highlights games. that he kind of
friends
finished
per
up over the
second. It's a
weekend.
podcast.
And this is how I heard about this one. Came out at the beginning of September, completely missed it. And it's basically a very me game. It is.
Yes, it's very you. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Tickles your brain the same way that Obra Dinn and Case of the Golden Idol does. You basically, stranger in a strange land. You arrive, there is, and you don't understand the language that the people who inhabit it speak. And so there will be these glyphs, these symbols that appear either, on a wall next to something or in speech bubbles as you meet people in the environment. And you basically, as soon as you encounter a new symbol or a new glyph, it gets put in your journal. And then what you can do is you basically use your skills of deduction depending on if it pops up in the environment somewhere or one example is every time you see someone, there'll be the same glyphs. You can kind of assume that means greetings. And so you can make notes about what you think things mean. And then as you solve puzzles, it kind of, you can figure out if you are on the right lines or on the wrong line or on the going down the wrong path. And then it does the Obra Dinn thing of it'll give you a page in your journal, and it'll have 3 pictures of something, like 3 sketches of something. And then if you match the right symbol with the word or the concept or the phrase or whatever, it kind of says, yeah, you did it, congrats. And then it solidifies it. And so you basically build up your own little dictionary. And it is, oh, it's so satisfying. I was playing it on the flight on the way back from New York. It is such a lovely little game.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty short as well. I've heard, like a couple of hours kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't finished it yet. I'm 2 hours in. I finished the first language because there's multiple ones. And there's a kind of a story within it about, at least the part that I did, the 2 hours that I did, it was like, oh, there are these devotees, there are priests, and like there's this kind of religious thing going on. You're trying to get to the bottom of it and figuring out, hey, how come those people are blocking off that gate? Or, hey, everyone's talking about God for some reason. What's up with that? It's a great little game. I'm really enjoying it.
We're getting ready to kick off our Game of the Year debates at MinMax. We air all those publicly and stuff. And this is one of those games that I don't think anyone's gotten to. I mean, are we blowing it by not getting the chance of Sonar before the end of the year? Okay, good to know.
Genuinely just think it's a very well crafted puzzle. Like nothing in there feels superfluous, and I think that's so important when you have a game that is left up. So much is left up to the interaction of the player, and you don't want to make them feel overwhelmed. Like every area that I would go into, you kind of just wander around and it loops back in on itself, and it never feels too big or overwhelming. At no point did I get stuck, which is great. There's like no friction there. And also even the little puzzles are fun. There was one that was like, there's a bunch of beds and you have to move them. The parking game on iOS, like the old parking game where you have to move the cars.
Sure.
It was basically that, but you're moving beds to get something out. It's great. Music is lovely too. Lovely little art style. It's good. I really enjoy it. So.
Yeah, I have it installed on like every device right now, with the intention of having the time to play it. But obviously, that's not going to happen until. But maybe soon though, because there's like a little bit of a gap coming up in the schedule after the Mario review's down. So I actually have had this on my list for a while because I originally saw Jason Schreier talking about it.
Yes, I saw Schreier.
But it just caught my eye in the lead up to it because I was like, okay. It's published by Focus Home Interactive as well.
And the dev is like Rundisk, who I've not heard of.
I don't know.
Before.
Apparently, it's just a duo team.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really
Yes.
interesting. I really that and Cocoon.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't feel like talking today.
Two of like because obviously I've done Dredge and I've done Dave the Diver, and I can't think of any other indies this year that have really hit that hard and really. Like, so I think Cocoon and Chance of Sonar, like the last two that I really need to tick off. So just because I've heard such wonderful things about them. So
yeah. Great year for puzzle games though. I mean, Cocoon and Viewfinder, like it's been a good
Viewfinder
good
as well.
batch.
Yes, I played that too. That was great. Yeah.
But Ralph, you have
I got a
Meta
new
Quest
toy.
3.
Talk to us. Oh man.
Okay. So
How heavy is that?
It's slightly heavier than the last one, but not by much. And wearing it is quite comfortable. It's with this strap. If you use the normal strap, it fucking sucks. It's like unusable. And there are also other straps you can buy that are like better versions. That whatever. This was just kind of like an impulse purchase because I don't do much VR. Okay, I just don't. I think there's two sides to VR. There's like the whole. I think there's ultimately to this point there's been two sides to VR. There's the social stuff. It's like VR chat and whatever else. And then there's gaming. And I think the gaming side of things, it's just plateaued for years. There's one or two things. Obviously, Half-Life Alyx is incredible and Beat Saber is amazing and whatever. But realistically, it's just a whole bunch of stuff that is working up towards something one day maybe. Okay.
Apparently, Walkabout Golf is amazing, but I haven't tried that yet. Apparently, a friend of mine loves it.
Yeah. Well, like, there's definitely those little things that pop up, and you're like, oh, this is tailor-made for VR or gaming, and for sure, right? But on the whole, that scene has had 10 years now of concerted effort behind it in terms of getting hardware and software stood up.
Oh,
and there's really only
10 years, hasn't it?
There's really only like 5 games that you'd point to as being like really, truly must-play experiences in VR. Yeah. So I don't do much VR, but I was like, all right, I'll just check out what Meta's doing because it's like whatever. The biggest selling when I bought this, I didn't really understand the mixed reality thing. I was like, yeah, cool. I can play a game where my ceiling is collapsing. Oh, wow, how exciting. That is not what this is, okay? Having now used this for just a few days, this is like remarkable technology that is absolutely going to be the future of, I think, like how we interact, what we wear in our faces and how we. So, just as an example, so the way this works is that I put this on and it has full pass through. Okay, some cameras that allow me to just look around the environment, and already that is a big deal. Most VRs have pass through. Most VR headsets have pass through, but it's usually like a grayscale thing. It's really delayed. It's unusable. Like you can't walk around with it. You can't interact with the environment. This has full pass through, and it's not amazing, but it's certainly good enough where I can just put this on and leave it on and then walk around my environment. I can walk outside if I wanted to. I could, just stay here. But like, well, I don't go outside, but if I did go outside, I could wear this, right? And so that allows you immediately to begin interacting with space while keeping this on and doing things. Then you get to the kind of like mixed reality stuff where I'm able to bring up a screen in front of me and it kind of just sits in front of my field of view. And as I'm looking around and walking around and doing everything, that screen stays exactly where I left it initially. And it's a really beautiful, crisp screen, by the way. The screen door effect is essentially gone as a result of the pancake lenses and all the stuff that they've done there. And so I could be standing at my sink doing dishes and I could have this fucking screen up in front of me playing YouTube. And like when you experience that for the first time, you're immediately like, oh, okay, this is the future. This is absolutely how we are going to be living our lives in future. It's not going to look like this. It's going to look like a little pair of glasses that we put on and whatever else, but they are going to be what we wear and they are going to allow us to bring up a screen instantly and interact with it. And like, I can obviously, I can grab that screen, by the way, like with my hand. I'll try and put some videos in while we're showing it. I can grab that screen with my hand like this because it uses full hand control, by the way. I don't need the actual controllers. I can pinch it and then resize it.
Wait,
move
what?
It.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I don't need controls to do this, by the way. I'm
no
literally,
controllers?
yeah, so like I'm like sitting there again. I could be doing my dishes at the kitchen. I could wash, grab the screen like this with this motion, move it around, resize. I can't actually do that gesture, but I can resize it, and then I can just continue on. I can then pick it up, and while I'm walking, I can walk through my house holding the screen in front of me. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm in my bedroom. I'm gonna lie down on my bed. I'm gonna throw the screen up there. I'm literally doing this, and I can just lie in my bed and I can watch it. You know what I mean? And like, that's crazy. Like I used to watch like iPad like shows on my in bed on my iPad. And I'm like, why would I do that now? I could just use this headset because the quality is good enough where it's like, and I can, but that's just the mixed reality mode. I can also go into like cinema mode where I'm just like obviously in a cinema. We've all seen that in VR, sure. But the fact is now the quality is good enough where it actually is enjoyable to watch that media. That was the big problem before. The screen door effect meant there was so much compromise in going into those virtual theater settings. Now you don't have to compromise. Again, I don't want to say it's 4K quality, but it's at least like, I'm going to say 720p quality, more than watchable given the fact that you've got this massive screen in front of you and it's really immersive. Then you get to the actual mixed reality programs. And there's one, which is like, imagine a keyboard in front of you, like a piano keyboard, okay? And then you've got the headset on, and like Guitar Hero, there are little lines that come down and that tell you which piano keys you should press at which time.
Perfect.
And you can just learn how to play piano by doing that with a real piano by wearing this headset. So I know I'm sounding really crazy and like kind of weirdly manic and whatever, but I did not understand what this was until I put this on and started using it. And then as I said, immediately when I started using it, I was like, fuck me. I understand why Apple are getting into this and they're trying to sell like a $3,000 headset because it legitimately does feel quite magical when this stuff kicks in and works in the way that it does. That's even like virtual desktop stuff, for example. This is so good that I can actually have my desk here and I can connect it to my PC and I can be sitting anywhere at a cafe, for example. And if I bring a little keyboard with me, I can connect remotely to my PC. I can then have 3 massive screens in front of me, like PC desktop screens. It streams my computer to my headset. I'm using a keyboard sitting there, and it's just like this very productive kind of environment given the amount of screen space that I have and given the clarity of what's on there. I can read the words properly, whereas again, you couldn't do that with previous VR headsets. So it's like, it really just, your imagination runs wild about what this is eventually going to be one day, you know? And it really has killed every other VR headset for me.
Wow.
As soon as I got this, I packed away my PSVR 2.
Yeah.
I'd only used it a little bit before, but now I was like, there's no need for that headset. And any headset that does not do this mixed reality stuff just seems like so behind the ball now, because this is clearly the
damn.
future of where all this is going. And I know I sound so crazy right
You
now. I'm
don't. It
sure I
sounds-
do.
It sounds like what the promise of like HoloLens was from back in the day.
Yeah.
Totally, totally. And look, it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. The hand tracking stuff is a bit weird and janky sometimes, and the quality still has a ways to go. Definitely, the pass-through cameras have a long way to go. They're only 4 megapixel cameras right now, and so there is a lot of clarity lost for sure. I don't want to create the impression that it's perfect, but I'm certain that in 1 to 2 generations, it will be basically perfect. And at that point, it's going to be totally wild to see how this technology takes over. Like, absolutely insane. So
We all laughed at Zuckerberg with his metaverse, and now look at
well,
us.
I
crawling back.
I think the metaverse fucking sucks, and I think the Facebook's version of it sucks. But I think they've always made a fantastic headset. They really have, and I think this is still another fantastic headset. And then, you know, obviously when Apple gets into this business and gives it a massive like shot in the arm in terms of what mixed reality is and how it affects our lives, yeah, dude, it's I was totally unprepared for it until I began to see it for myself, and then I was like, wow, okay, yeah, cool, this is it for sure.
That is wild that, you know, Facebook, Meta, that they are just kind of stealing a little bit of that thunder for having the great mixed reality headset. And also, I mean, Apple Vision Pro is $3,500, and this one is $500.
Correct.
Whoa.
Correct. But again, I don't know what the quality of the Apple Vision Pro is. I mean,
Sure.
if it fixes all of my complaints, then, you know, maybe it's worth that price point.
I think they're trying really hard to go after that like Apple product vibe of like,
Yeah.
it's not just you're not just buying a headset, you're buying a lifestyle. You're buying
It
a,
just works.
yeah.
It's not a Skyrim game.
Well, I mean, it kind of does. Like, because I mean, I'm lucky because I have a big TV screen here, right? And it's very big, and I have like a little setup here, personal studio. But if I didn't have that, and I wasn't happy with my home theater setup, this is a very, very enjoyable way to watch media in your house on a virtual big screen that is just so immersive. And
This is going to do a lot for the VR porn enjoyers.
Oh.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will.
Shout out to the
for sure.
perverts.
So
Shout out to
that's
the
your
right.
time
pervs.
has
This
come.
one is for you.
Well, that's
guys.
what made the DVD format successful.
Yeah.
Porn
Yeah.
shows DVD, and that's what won it.
It's
you know?
where
So
SEO as well.
all of
It's
that
from
shit, you
porn,
know. So where
so-
porn goes, everything else follows. And yes, I think you're right about that, Lucy. So
God
I
damn
mean,
it.
as I s-
I'm so
Yeah.
impressed. I'm fleeting on this podcast. I want you all to like set a reminder 6 months from now. Ask Ralph again. Are you still watching YouTube on this thing while washing your dishes? Is this
Well,
just like
to be clear, I have very specific. My setup is very tailor made to allow me to consume media in the way that I want. I've got this desk and that fucking TV and whatever, and I got 2 computers and what have you. But I think inside my house is not as well set up, and I do plan to use it inside my house at times, as though even though my family will think it's very weird, but they will get used to it because they have to. And I really am just excited to see the experimentation that will take place on the mixed reality app front and see what people produce there, because you know I think that some big things are going to happen there. Like I really think that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the dumbest thing ever, and I'm just whatever. But I really don't think so. I think
That's
Apple are pretty
cool.
smart, and the fact that they're putting billions of dollars and they're staking the next phase of their like product journey on mixed reality, I think already tells you that this is the real deal. And yeah, my experiences for just a few days tell me that this is absolutely the real deal.
that piano thing, projecting it onto a real piano? That
That's
is
nuts.
the most tempting thing I've heard since the launch of VR, to be honest.
Absolutely. And it's like you could do that with a drum set, and you could probably do that with
Yeah.
a million things that we haven't even thought about yet. You know, imagine like a workout environment in a park. Like, let's say you go to a park and you're wearing a mixed reality headset. Imagine what they could set out this kind of little obstacle course for you. No, I'm not even joking, by
You
the way.
can't, but you're gonna look so much dumber. You already look dumb wearing the
You
headset. Now you're
will
also
look,
leaping
you look
around.
dumb now, but imagine when lots of people are doing
Sure,
this. Like,
You'll look
that's the
dumb
point, you know?
together.
Dumb
The thing that I'm thinking
together.
about- the thing that I'm thinking
Ugh.
about is, you guys remember when, was it the HoloLens or Microsoft at that E3 press conference was like, this is Minecraft, and we like all saw like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
virtual
On the
like a
table?
on the table.
Yes.
We all were like,
Yeah.
whoa, it's like growing, and you see Steve.
Oh,
on the
I
cart and
remember
everything.
that.
Like, this is
Yeah.
so cool. Just seeing the website for MetaQuest 3, half the things they showcase are like that demo, and it like looks solid. It looks great. I love my Quest. I play my Quest 2 almost every day. I love that thing. It's great. So
Yeah,
I'm on
well, I
board.
would say that technology is the least impressive. If you think that's cool, that's the least
Damn
impressive
it,
part
Ralph.
of what mixed reality is. I'm serious though. Like, I've played those little demos, and they're like, oh, that's cute, whatever. Yeah, it's on my coffee table. How fun! But it's a whole other thing when you'd have these massive virtual screens around you that you can interact with your hands. By the way, it's actually surprisingly nice to touch type with this stuff as well.
Oh.
You get a keyboard in front of you, and you're literally doing these ones with your fingers, and the way the keys press and pop back and the sound effects, it feels great. You can touch these virtual screens and scroll through them like you would a phone. It is crazy. As I encountered and practiced more and more with it, I was like, wow. So I don't know, man. I'm really interested to see what people think about this. I know I'm so excited about what this technology could be, and I never thought I would have said that, but I legitimately am.
Okay,
very
so
excited.
MetaQuest 3, Mario Wonder, Spider-Man 2. Give the full ranking, please.
Oh, absolutely. I would say in terms of raw shock value and just like opening your mind's eye, MetaQuest 3. Because you
Better
just
than
like,
Mario Wonder.
yeah, I mean, no, just again,
Wow.
just in terms of like how much it blew me away, I was like,
Okay.
wow, look at what this is going to be one day. In terms of as a video game, Mario Wonder is
Okay.
really remarkable. And then Spider-Man 2, I really enjoyed. Don't get me wrong. I strongly recommend it in my review, but I was like, I've experienced a lot of this already. It's very well made. I'm very glad everyone else loves it way more, but I'm just like, this is solid. Yes, totally. So that's my force ranking for
Bold.
the three.
Bold.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
if MetaQuest 3 is the future, it's time to go to look at the past.
Damn! That is
Yeah.
such a good segue. Holy shit.
was
Well
awesome.
done, Lucy. I'm going to give you a golf clap for that
Thank
one. That was very
you.
good. That's it.
Gerard, please, what is picks for this week in the way back?
Oh my God, everyone. It is the week of October 17th across the internet. We've got several anniversaries of stuff that's going to make y'all feel bad. You know what? Ben, you're new here. What is your pick as to a game that you remember fondly of, and how old is it today?
Yeah, this won't make it feel too bad, but buckle up for how bad you'll feel in a little bit.
Sure.
6 years ago, South Park: The Fractured But Whole
Cool.
released.
Good choice.
Wow.
Yeah, from Ubisoft.
Is that already
San
6 years
Francisco.
old?
They went from developing Rocksmith to the South Park game, and now they're making X Defiant. It's just a weird studio
Yeah.
trajectory.
Yeah, where they
Unpredictable.
yoinked it from Obsidian and took
Yes,
it
that's
in
right.
house.
That's right.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed this game. I feel like it was one of those. I really loved Stick of Truth when it came out in 2014. I'm just sucker for Paper Mario specifically, and so the fact that like, oh, we're having a South Park game that is just so clearly modeled after Paper Mario, it's like I am completely on board. And I really enjoyed Fractured But Whole. I felt like as a cohesive story, it was so much more successful than Stick of Truth was. It's the longest form story Matt and Trey have ever told, and like it holds together pretty well, you know? And I don't know what was going on at the time, other big releases, but it feels like no one really talked about it in a big way.
I'll tell
Yeah,
you what
that's
came
true.
out: Destiny 2 and Assassin's Creed Origins. Those were the two
Oh,
titles.
that'll do it.
That'll do it,
I
yeah.
guess
You
that
asked
makes
what
sense.
was the greatest game day and releases ever? That was it, baby. Destiny
That was
2 and
it.
Assassin's Creed Origins. That's right.
But I
no,
think
I
also,
agree with you. They were great games, actually. Really
Very
well
good
made. They were
games.
Very fun.
funny, and in that South Park way, like it didn't feel like they had compromised on the South Park humor. and they also were very well made video games that were
Yeah.
quite smart and with the class system, and they lent on the the characters in the story and combined them with like RPG classes, and it was very well handled. I totally agree with you. Yeah,
They had
definitely.
a mad tie-in. Did you guys ever do the Nozulus Rift?
Oh yes,
No.
the
So
smell
So they
thing.
had. I remember doing it at Gamescom. There's a video on GameSpot somewhere of me and Tam doing it, where they basically put instead of an
I did
Oculus
do
Rift,
this.
the
I
nose
did do this.
thing.
Yes.
And so
yes.
stuff that you could find in the game, you could smell, and the game had a dedicated fart button. So of
That's
course you
right.
do is you press the button and it smells like farts.
I did that. Where was that? Was that an E3? We did that. I can't remember. I think it was an E3 or maybe it was a Ubisoft office thing.
Yeah.
But I did that as well, and I was like, "Well, that was terrible. I
Yeah.
really regret doing that. Thank you very much."
Yeah, I did it at
So-
Gamescom. They definitely took it out on the road. But yeah, who knew that pressing a button to make a fart will make it smell like fart?
Farts never got old, man.
Ben, thank you for sharing that.
bet.
Let's go to Ralph. Ralph, what's your
Mine-
game of the way
mine
back this
is,
week?
It's an oldie but a goodie. It's reliable. It's Mario. 38 years ago today. The Mario released on the NES.
What
Can you
the
believe
fuck?
that? Like 38. And actually, I remember Mario being my very first video game that I ever played when I was 4 years old, and I got it as a Christmas present. We were living in a place called Bundaberg, which is very famous for its rum here in Australia, Bundy rum.
There's also
And,
ginger beer, Thunderbird.
Of course, exactly right. That's right. And that was it, man. That was my very first start. I still remember unwrapping the NES. I remember playing Mario, and that's, I guess, where it all began for me. So
Aw.
38 years, though,
Yeah.
sounds like a very long time, doesn't it? And it's weird that it's 38 years today, and Mario Wonder is coming out,
Yep.
what, 2 days from now. So it's basically the 38th year anniversary of Mario, and it's still managing to stay as fresh and like vibrant and innovative as it was all those years ago. It's so rare to
Unbelievable.
see anything do that,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, funny you say that, Ralph, because my game is Sonic 3 and Knuckles 29 years ago. The
Ooh.
exact same thing when you compare, because literally Sonic Superstars just came out a couple of days ago. So
Sure.
they know what they're doing. They know
do.
they're paying attention. Yeah, Sonic and Knuckles. For those of you who are uneducated, it was the part 2 of Sonic 3. Essentially, you took your Sonic 3 pack and you plugged it on top of your Sonic and Knuckles game. You unlocked Knuckles as a playable character.
That's right. Of
And you could play. You could
course,
either play
yes.
all of the campaign of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, or you could just play the second half of Sonic 3, aka Sonic and Knuckles. And you just start from the middle of the game.
Power,
And you
speed,
kind of were lost if you
ability.
didn't,
Mana.
narratively speaking, if you didn't play both. But I was that guy that rented Sonic 3 and Knuckles a billion times until I finally was like, I have to own this game. But definitely one of my favorites on the Genesis. Definitely, I think.
Yeah, me too. It was
I think
great.
I think
really
I think, I
liked that,
think
actually.
Sonic 3 and Knuckles together are my favorite game on the
Mm.
Genesis.
There we go.
Yeah, Lucy, make us feel old.
Power.
Well, was it 12 years ago on October 12th, 2011? A little game called Batman Arkham City came
Yeah.
out.
Ooh.
Did she say
What
20
a
years?
Well,
I think
Very cool.
Sonic 3 and Knuckles together are my favorite game on the
Mm.
Genesis.
There we go.
Yeah, Lucy, make us feel old.
well, was it 12 years ago?
Oh,
on
12,
October
okay.
12th, 2011. A little game called Batman Arkham City came
Yeah.
out.
Ugh.
What a banger. I think it is the best Arkham game, which it feels kind of weird to say given how incredible Arkham Asylum is. I went back and replayed
Yeah.
them all a couple of years ago, but I feel like Arkham Asylum definitely shows its age a little bit, certainly when it comes to some of the boss fights. Arkham City just feels like that complete breath of fresh air when you go out into Gotham. I think in terms of the Rogues Gallery, it's got maybe the best balance of everyone. And it's just, and mixing it up with Catwoman. I love that game. I love Batman. And it's just,
I'm Batman.
oh, it's so good. I want to play it
Yeah.
again. I
Yeah,
just
the
did
mis-
you
I'm
like
not
Night?
wearing
Did you
hockey
like Night,
pants.
though?
I did like
Like-
Night. I didn't
Yeah.
hate the tank stuff as much as everyone else did.
No, I know, everyone shits on it so
Ability.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
But I I
I'm
didn't
out.
mind it. I thought it was
I
fun.
did because of the time trials, but that's because
Yeah,
completion.
well.
Yeah, what are you doing? You got to
Yeah.
stop that whole thing.
Hey,
You gotta
do
do
that
that
to
new
yourself,
name, buddy.
Gerard.
Just carry my body across the finish line, everyone.
Yeah,
right.
but that Mr. Freeze boss fight in Arkham City
Oh,
was so good.
Perfection.
And one of the greatest boss fights ever.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that game when I was playing Spider-Man 2 because I feel like no one really talks about it again. I don't know where I expect all these people to talk about these things all the time. But playing as Catwoman in Arkham City, I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
forget you do it a
Yeah.
decent chunk. But like, was there like an upgrade tree or anything for Catwoman? I'm trying to remember if there's any.
I don't think so.
It was just like take her as you get her, and
I
that's it for
think-
these little chunks.
I think so because she has like moveset wise, she has the jacks on the floor. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you unlock other things for her later on. do you?
Okay.
I don't remember doing that. But I also remember you had like the predator rooms and all the challenge stuff, and you had all of the skins to unlock. And a friend of mine was working at a convention once, and she just had like a stack of those things to redeem. So I had every single skin. It was great.
Nice.
The best.
Well done.
That was this week in the Wayback. And before I toss it back to you, Lucy, I do want to give a quick shout out to our homie, friend of the pod, Ben Starr. Everyone, if you guys don't know, Ben Starr is a part of a D&D group called Natural Six. And it is a
Ben
D&D
Starr
that
has a
consists of
D&D.
bunch of video game voice actors coming
Oh
together
damn.
to do a D&D
That
campaign.
sounds-
They just launched on Kickstarter. It's kickstarter.com/projects/natural6. Support our boy Ben. This is not a brand deal. This is a genuine, both Bens. Support
All the-
Min
support all the
and
Bens.
support Natural
Bens.
Six.
Ben
Yeah.
Affleck.
Give him some money.
I
Come on,
don't know.
Ben
Ben-
Affleck.
I
He
don't
always
know if
looks
Ben
so
Affleck is
sad.
our
Does
boy, but
Duncan
Ben
Bucks.
Affleck needs money. He looks
yeah,
really
yeah,
down.
he's doing just fine, Ben Affleck. But Ben Starr, yeah, support him if you guys can. I think I got the Kickstarter. You guys know
Yeah.
what it's about.
Yeah,
Go check it
Natural
out.
Six.
They're at a time of us recording this, they're like getting closer and closer to their goal. So, and they've got
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
28 days left in their campaign. So, if you liked Final Fantasy 16, you like Ben Starr,
The Witcher 3.
The Witcher
Witcher
3.
Doug
If you like The
Cockle,
Witcher 3,
Doug Cockle is also in there as well. So
Yep.
Alex
I think-
Alex Jordan was Mr. Hands in
Mr. Hands in the
Cyberpunk.
most. He got recast as Mr. Hands. He's the
He
newer
did.
Mr. Hands.
He was in
he did a
he's
really good job.
Demon Souls. He's the voice of you in Demon Souls of and like Aoife and Holly. I go back with both of them for years because Aoife and I used to work at the same company, and Holly used to be a PlayStation access. So it is a who's whomst of British actors and games industry folks.
Hell yeah. So
Cool.
go check him out. Anyways, back to you, Lucy.
Well, that about does it for this week's episode of the Friends Per Second podcast. I want to say a big thank you again to the lovely Ben Hansen for joining us. Thank you.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for having me.
See
If you enjoy this stupid voice, you can check out the Min Max Show. 2 N's in there. Yeah, we have a big rotating crew to try and pick the best people to be on every week. But we have, Jacob Geller, YouTube essay extraordinaire, Kelsey Lewin, who is the co-director of the Video Game History Foundation, Leo Vader, who is a YouTube channel that's blowing up, Sarah Podzorski, who comes from the localization scene. She was at 8-4 on the 8-4 Play podcast. So a ton of other folks to rotate through. So check out the Min Max Show, everybody. We'd appreciate it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Ralph, where can we find you?
Here
Here.
on the Shill Up channel. It's playing Mario, and then next week Alan Wake.
Yeah.
Let's go, man. Let's go. I'm excited. I'm very pumped.
And Gerard, what about you?
You can find me at youtube.com/thatonevideogamer or twitch.tv/thecompletionist, where next week we're going to be having our show Indieland, and Lucy and Tam are our guest hosts this year. So we're raising money for dementia research, highlighting indie games. It's going to be 3 or 4 days streaming straight. I'm sure I'm going to get all
This
kinds of
didn't
hair
age
waxed
well.
off my body in pain and eating hot sauce. So it's going to be, it's what we do. We raise money for charity. Ralph's face is very funny to me. Contextually, it doesn't make any sense. But basically, people donate money and they do painful things to me in honor of charity. So I'm a very hairy man, Ralph. There's a lot of hair that gets ripped off this body.
I have
Alrighty.
waxed Tam a lot through charity streaming stuff. So if you need
okay.
someone
Me.
to
You're gonna be doing that a lot this coming
Yeah.
weekend, Lucy. So that's October 27th to the 29th on my Twitch page. Hang out with us. We'll be there all weekend.
And that's where you'll find me next weekend. I'm over on GameSpot and Giant Bomb. I just did a big timeline of all of Cyberpunk. So,
Cool.
please
that.
watch that because
I'll watch that.
took a lot
Would've been
out of me.
work.
It's
Yep,
a lot
for
of
sure.
work. And in lieu of the lovely Jake Baldino, I guess I'll say, tie your shoes and go to bed.
My friend gave me this for my Chris Redfield Halloween costume.
Really?
You know, Chris Redfield, like in the intro. But it's terrifying. I barely know how to use it, and it like fucking explodes in your face.
Do
For
it,
people
do it.
listening,
Show
Do
it,
it,
show
do
it,
it,
later-
please.
Yeah, no, it doesn't like light though. I think it doesn't have. I don't think it has stuff in it, like the fluid or whatever. Clearly, I'm a smoker.
I love that thing that people do where they can like hold it and they just like, and it's just out
Like
and they're
you
holding
flink,
it, it's on
flink.
fire.
Yeah.
No, they just do it like with one hand. Like they don't even need two hands. They just do these ones, and somehow it's they turn it on. I don't know,
Nope,
man.
almost.
Those people are impressive.
It's
You're
cool.
impressive too,
What
Jake.
can I say? Yeah, I just
Don't
need like a
worry.
toothpick in my mouth, and I'll be like a cool guy.
Can I just
But
say as well?
You're
we're gonna
already a
ask
cool
Stu-
guy.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I agree.
That
I
means
agree.
a lot.
You're
trying.
wearing a Hideo Kojima T-shirt. I mean, only the coolest of kids wear Hideo shirts.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
the deep cut of Hideo as well. It's
Yeah,
the,
I mean,
it's the-
technically it's
the
not
cut
about
to black
him.
screen.
yeah. It's about Psycho Mantis. It's a
Yep.
Psycho Mantis is on the back too. I
Oh,
can't
turn
say
around,
that,
turn around.
But
Turn
No.
around,
Turn
turn around.
around.
Come on, do
Turn
it.
it around.
Do it. There he is.
Oh, yeah. Are you
Can't really
getting?
see it.
Are you getting the Because the Uniqlo are re-releasing the Metal Gear Solid shirts.
What?
I
Yeah.
considered it. Yeah.
Yeah, or the collection from
Okay.
like 10 years ago.
Well, that just cost me some money.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for that.
I'm doing a service. All the
Slow
Metal
with the
Gear
gamer- the gamer
perverts.
lines.
By the
So
way,
good.
can we make sure that Stuart actually puts up a photo of Jake's cosplay for Halloween because it is so like S
Which one?
tier
It
that
was.
must
You're
be
talking
so
Which
about
one? He
good.
did too.
He did too.
Oh, that's right. He did too. He did the Friday
did
show
too.
Batman, and then yes, of course,
it's
and
too
then
much.
the Resident Evil one.
One might
was
say
True.
it's too
incredible.
much.
No.
but-
No, I don't agree.
Just-
I didn't dress up at all. Because I was out.
Yeah, me either. Me
No.
either. But we don't really do. We kind of do Halloween here in
No.
Australia. I've definitely noticed that we're doing it a lot more these days than we were back in the day. It's,
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
taken the brands won. The candy makers got their way, and so now we're doing it here. You know.
If my friends were posting pictures of walking down streets where every single person had loads of decorations and chocolate, and the kids were all dressed up. And Greg Miller, my old roommate, they went to one where someone had a cotton candy making machine and were just
Wow,
giving,
nice.
giving
Goddamn.
kids. And I was like, when I went trick or treating as a kid, my mum cut 3 holes in a bin bag and sent me out as a witch. Okay, and I remember getting yelled at by trick or treating. So it's a whole other world over here.
Love
Our
it.
neighborhood was all right. It was like if you if you walk down our street, it was just like Mary Poppins and movie accurate, like strikingly movie accurate Batman just drinking beer and handing out full size candy
What the
bars.
fuck?
Oh, wait, you're a full size house.
It was first year in the new neighborhood, so it was
Yeah.
like when you go to jail and you fight the biggest person there on the first day. It's like you gotta like show off. You gotta like flex. So I was like, let's do
But
it.
is that,
full
is that a
size.
thing? Is it full
That's a
size?
thing.
Is
Oh.
like is a thing where okay, that makes a lot of sense. I can see that's like
Kids
a flex.
freak out. It's cool.
Oh,
Also, there was one
of course.
kid dressed like Link, and I acknowledged him.
Ooh.
I was like, "Whoa, Link!" And he held up his sword, and I was like, "That's a cool sword. That's the Master Sword." And by acknowledging that, he thought that meant that he could hit me. So he just started striking me with it. But thankfully, I was
Yes.
Batman, so I fucking gauntleted
Oh.
that.
Good, you had that
Oh.
shit under control.
Who would win in a
I
fight,
parried.
Batman or Link?
shit. Welcome to the Friends Per Second podcast. This is a podcast where 4 and sometimes more friends gather to talk about video games and stuff. This is episode 33, believe it or not. I'm Jake Baldino. I'm joined as always, of course, by Ralph, aka Skill Up, Gerard the Completionist, and Lucy James. How you guys doing?
Hi. I'm doing all right.
Good. Lucy and I.
Doing good.
We hung
Lucy
out.
and I raised money for charity for 4 or 5 days, so we're exhausted. But well, other than that, I feel pretty good.
I don't know about you,
Exhausted,
but
but
Monday.
successful?
Oh yeah.
Monday
It
was
went well?
rough. Yeah. We raised $81,000 for dementia research. And
Hey!
yeah, it was,
That's
it was
Wonderful soul. That's
Mamma mia.
awesome.
yeah, it was awesome.
it.
Yeah.
We also got to debut gameplay reveal for Penny's Big Breakaway, the new Evening Star game by the guys who made Sonic Mania. That was really cool.
It was
Cool.
really
Yeah.
Interesting.
World
Alright.
premiere. Take that,
Yeah,
Jeff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a lot of if you ever want to see Lucy laugh at my pain, there's lots of footage of me getting bodied online somewhere. So lots of waxings and hot sauces.
Oh,
I got to
I
wax a
see.
couple people.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
waxed Tam, and is it Barry? He was,
Barry, Barry
Yeah.
Kramer.
yeah.
Yeah.
He
Right.
was so good. There's a point I watched the video back, and I didn't realize that you can hear him go like such a high pitched squeak.
Just a little tiny.
Love it.
No, it was so fun. But also, I think one of the things I'm also very glad for, like, super glad to be there, highlight a bunch of indies, and obviously raise a lot of money. But we got to hang out with Tam on Monday and just chill out and have like a really
I
nice
can
lunch
smile,
and just
yeah.
go to the beach. And
Hell yeah.
then came back.
Love a nice lunch.
Wait, where was this? Where was this?
LA.
LA.
LA, right. Okay.
Yes, not
Nice.
downtown, not the block that
No.
you
Not
only
the-
know.
That's right.
The
Yeah.
rest of
It was in the crypto arena or it was nowhere. That's
I-
the only
I
space
booked
that
my Game
exists.
Awards hotel today, and there was a point where I
Did
was
you?
just like, I don't even need to look at the address. I know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah, it's like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. No, well, I guess that's something we can say. We're going to be in LA for the Game Awards in a couple of weeks' time. We'll be there doing an in-person episode, which is very exciting. Yeah, really always love doing that. That's well, when I say always, it's the second time we've done it, but we've done other in-person episodes in LA. This will be the second time we've done it for the Game Awards, though. It's a really great night. It's just cool. It's just celebrations and meeting cool people, and I love it.
And we all get to
I'm
dress
really,
up.
Really pumped. I'm thinking
gonna wear a
about
zoot
that.
suit.
What's a zoot suit?
Yes.
The
Are you
mask.
really, Jake?
It's the suit that he wore in the mask.
you-
Maybe not
Oh.
yellow. but, like, with the
Hell
tails
yeah!
and-
Are you gonna
Yeah.
have like big shoulder pads and shit
and,
going
like,
out, or
yeah,
what?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
I just made that
cool.
up. I'm not gonna do that.
Oh.
God
Absolutely
damn
not
it!
gonna
Why
do
Damn it,
not?
Jake.
Just do it.
Damn.
I'm gonna do the Game Journalist special, the T-shirt under a blaze. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, with some
That's
like
what
high
I
tops
do,
on.
baby. Let's go.
Yeah, but you're like the OG. You make it look good.
I'm the OG. What do you mean?
I'm jealous of all the people that actually managed to pull off really cool suits and like they've clearly put the effort in and they managed to land it. I'm like, I don't know if I could ever do that, but one day I'll get my shit together and try.
I have a dress, so I feel like it's easier. You know, I just,
Yeah.
just dress or whatever.
Sure.
Well, last year, remember how there was so many articles about like gamers, please, when you come to the Game Awards, don't like, and everyone was like, all right,
Get
fine.
fucked.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
genuinely, my first ever Game Awards, I think in 2018 or 2019, I wore this beautiful dress, right? It was backless. It had this like gorgeous sticky out train thing. It looked incredible. Man was wearing jorts. No shade to jorts, but it was like, commit to a theme. Commit to something. You can't just have
Yeah.
the open dress code. You can't give that to gamers because they'll just turn up in jorts.
Look, there's only two people in the world that can wear jorts: John Cena and Skill Up. No one else.
Nah.
Damn
wait.
it. I was
and-
really
knew it
hoping
was
I was
coming.
going to escape some. I knew it was coming. I was like, this is happening, isn't
No.
it? We're going to do the
No.
jorts thing, aren't we? Fucking hell.
John Cena, Tobias Funke, and Ralph.
Pretty good crowd. That's a pretty good group.
That's very small
not bad
exclusive
company to
list.
keep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll do
Oh,
Ralph will coordinate.
Tobias
We'll do,
Funke.
we'll do like a group thing.
And that'll
I'll
replace
wear
Canadian
regular
tuxedo.
jeans and you can wear jorts and we can do like a denim combo.
And we need someone with like 3/4 as well, just to kind of like so it cascades down and we do a photo together.
And then
I think
Jenko
that
No,
jeans,
I
like
can-
a big, like with a dragon on the side.
No, it's you guys have to go as Brittany and Justin in the all jeans.
Oh, in the denim.
In the
Oh,
all
the
denim.
true
That's in
denim
right now.
actually.
Brittany and
Yeah.
Justin are in right now.
that
so
would be
that's
hot.
cool.
We could sell a calendar on that for sure if we did that.
The
for
FPS
sure.
calendar.
It would be super hot.
We have real things to talk about.
We do.
Not to
I don't
get.
know. I'm fine to talk about George for the next 2.5 hours.
Welcome to the Jorts
Works for me.
cast. We should do a deep dive. Yeah, review. I want a game review Jorts.
Yep.
This is a busy episode. It's a catch up because I was gone last week. I was sick.
Wow, we
so,
missed
we
you.
have a lot of games to talk about. We have a fantastic interview with Kyle Rowley and Sam Lake, the co-directors of Alan Wake 2. And we also are going to jump into our first topic regarding Bungie and Destiny. If you don't play Destiny, I'd say stick around, specifically because it's about the state of the industry. We've talked a lot in the past about layoffs. It's been a big trend this year. Despite so many great games and successes, layoffs have been a major thing. And most recently, Bungie is victim of that. Bungie has cut an estimated 100 jobs.
8 to 10% of the whole studio.
And that is
Goddamn.
significant. And I think the community has taken note, and people have been very not happy about this. A lot of people are questioning, like, well, what's Destiny now? There's so much to dive into with this, but Ralph, I know you've been like following along with it, like to the letter as soon as it started coming out.
Yeah.
What's your like top level takeaway?
Yeah, look, it's very bruising, I guess I would say, because I think with Destiny, people who play Destiny are very invested in the people who make it in the studio, because I think Bungie themselves invite that. Like, they talk about the studio as a family, and they put themselves out there, and they're very values driven, right? So this is not just some mechanical corporation that produces a piece of software and puts it out. Like, it's a relationship that you have with the studio, and it's a relationship that dates all the way back to Halo for most of us, and even before that, you know, Marathon and like all that sort of stuff before. So, yeah, like it's like when you see this sort of stuff happen, you're like, oh, that is disappointing on its own, on spec, on its face value. But then you think about the way that it's happened, the fact that, you know, Sony acquired the studio and apparently earmarked $1 billion for employee retention, and then boom, like 100 people get sacked. You hear about the fact that the studio, like CEO Pete Parsons, 2 weeks ago said, we are missing our targets by 45%, which is a whole other discussion.
Jesus.
And he kind of rallied the troops, like, we're going to get through this, we're going to weather the storm together. And apparently staff were really up for that fight. And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, by the way, 100 of you are being made redundant. It's like, well, you don't have that discussion first and rally the troops and get everyone on board for that fight and then sack them, you know? And then Pete Parsons comes out, CEO, and he's like, oh, it's such a sad day for Bungie. If anyone has any roles, please hire these people. It's like, bro, you are the one that just sacked them. You are not the person to be saying this right now. And then it also came out that there was another all-hands meeting, or I'm not sure if it was a meeting or an email or whatever, but Pete Parsons said, you know, post these redundancies, oh, we kept the right people to manage Destiny 2. And that's so hurtful
That's a slap
to
in
all
the
of the
face.
people that
Who
were
let
exited,
go,
you know?
yeah.
So there's a lot there that just kind of, all of these things pile up, and they just make you feel like, man, that fucking sucks. But I think for me personally, the exit of Michael Salvatore was like the really big thing, because if anyone doesn't know, he's the
music?
lead composer on Destiny and has been for a long time now. He's responsible for so much of its incredible music, and he was sacked. Like, he was, and it's kind of like,
How does that
if
work?
you're that good at your job
Yeah.
and you've been there for that long, and even you get made redundant, then what the fuck, man?
His
It's like,
email was so
it was very
classy.
Yeah,
Like,
it was.
he
It
could have
was.
really ripped them a new one.
Totally.
And hats off to that guy. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And
so
things,
it just
things like that
you go.
too. Like, I don't even know how a lot of the process works, but like, what's the game plan for stuff like that? Are they going to have the interns make music? Are they going to go to audiojungle.com and download the music? Like, how to even not just in terms of him, but just the fact that, like, Ralph, to your point, how it's a very front-facing company, a communicative company, and communications and social media and community management people have been laid off. So it's like,
Yes,
what-
totally.
Yeah.
what's the plan here?
Well, to be clear, there are other composers still on the team, so the music will still get made, and there are other
Okay,
community people
fair,
still.
yeah.
So it's not like they've gutted all these functions and then it's just like not going to happen or be outsourced. Like, there's still people there doing their jobs, but at a reduced capacity. And the people that were let go were clearly very talented, and it's kind of like those people could have been redeployed toward another end. You know, they didn't need to lose. And we talk about like 45% missing a forecast. It's like, well, what was that fucking forecast? Like,
Yeah,
what the hell?
Did
You know
the
what I
people
mean?
who got that forecast, like, did anything happen in that?
Say it again, sorry.
Did the people who put together that forecast, are they
Do
still
they
in
get
their-
sacked?
Is they still in their
Is
roles?
Pete Parsons taking a pay cut? I doubt it. You know what I mean? Like, it's the standard sort of and I get these comments as well from people. They're like, well, this just happens everywhere. Why the fuck are you whinging? It's like, well, the fact that it happens everywhere is kind of the problem. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just really shitty and disappointing, especially given the fact that $3.6 billion for purchase price for this studio, $1 billion earmarked for retention 12 months ago, and immediately jobs are gone when Destiny is like, you know, struggling. And it does open up questions about the future of the game, about what Bungie's long-term plans are. Are they looking to sunset Destiny, not in an immediate sense, but maybe it becomes something they put on life support. Maybe they view it as a legacy franchise. Maybe it's something like Star Wars, The Old Republic, for example, which is still maintained, but in a very basic sense. You know what I mean? This is all speculation, by the way. No one knows how Bungie plan to approach this. Anything that will happen will not happen soon because Destiny 2 is still Bungie's cash cow. They need it to make money. But at the same time, it's like, well, what's their long-term intention for Destiny 2? And I think these job cuts really reframe out the potential for what that future might be, you know? So yeah, it's tough. I think everyone's pretty bummed about it. Everyone's unsure of the future of Destiny. Everyone's very pissed off at how Bungie has handled it. And yeah, it's a very, very tough time for Destiny fans for sure.
Well,
Do you
at the
think?
very-
Oh,
Sorry,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say, Ralph. There was a report a couple days ago that folks are canceling their pre-orders of the newest DLC expansion pack for Destiny 2.
Expansion. Yeah, expansion.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I imagine that can't be good for the overall
I mean,
people that are
I
still
think,
there.
Yeah, I think those sorts of things are always very tiny blips in the overall percentage of how a game is going to sell versus not sell, you know? And it's I think it more speaks to a broader community sentiment rather than, oh, it's going to, now the game's not going to sell well. No, the game will still sell a lot. It's the concluding saga for Destiny 2. But, you know, I do believe that there's been a notable shift in community sentiment, and that I think is the most important metric, because those really rusted on people are the people that wrangle in their friends to say, hey, come back and let's play the expansion together. And if they're not up for it, then that is going to have flow-on impacts. And just overall morale and engagement is so important for a live service game. You need to maintain that momentum, and this has definitely taken a lot of wind out of the sails. So yeah.
Who did you speak to for this next upcoming piece then?
Yes, so we're about to come to an interview that we recorded earlier. Oh, I haven't actually recorded this yet, by the way, sorry. So we're recording this tomorrow, but we're going to splice it in through the magic of editing. But we're going to chat with three content creators. One guy named My Name is Bife, who is kind of like the lore master general for Destiny 2. There's a guy named Aztec Cross, who does broad coverage and commentary. Really fantastic at what he does. And there's also a guy named Dado, who is kind of like the proto Destiny content creator from the very beginning, and he's often served as kind of like the voice of the community in a roundabout way, and his perspectives on things has always been very valued and sought out. So yeah, three very good content creators, people who are never afraid to be critical of Bungie, but also have a lot of love for the studio and the game. And yeah, we are about to sit down with them now. And again, I don't know how that chat's going to go because we haven't done it yet, but this will be it. So yeah, there you go. Okay, well, here we are. I'm joined now by Dado, Bife, and Asti Cross. First of all, gents, can I say it's really great to see you? We were just saying before the call I've spoken with Bife and Dado many times before. It's actually the very first time I've been able to speak to Cross. So, dude, great to meet you finally. It's awesome. I wish it was under better circumstances, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good to see you guys, and thank you for making the time. Obviously, big moment in the Destiny community, and I guess we've sort of already recounted that in the previous section of the podcast. Wanted to ask your initial kind of reactions to everything that's gone down. Like when you saw this news, what were you thinking? Like what was the first thing going through your mind? So Dado, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got up and was checking my phone and everything, I saw that a couple people were being laid off, and I was like, oh, sucks. Sounds like a couple people from Bungie getting laid off. I didn't really think too much of it, but then as, you know, that first 15 minutes turned into the first
Once
hour, 2 hours, I was like, oh, this is serious stuff. This isn't just like a couple people getting laid off from a thing. This is like a whole deal. And I was a little bit surprised because I don't feel like we've ever seen something like this really happen with Bungie or the people working on Destiny.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a surprise, even though like I knew that like, yeah, you know, population's down a little bit. Okay. But like, you know, we've had that happen before and it's never been a huge deal. So
Yeah. Bife.
I got to agree. You know, coming out of it and looking at what was happening first, you don't really know what the shock is like. But I think it was the moment when I saw that Liana had been laid off from the community team, where I was like, oh, hold on a second, expletives have hit the fan. And
Sure.
you know, Dano and I are some of the few people who have been doing this for close to a decade now, and it's at this moment in time where I think we've seen just about every single kind of drama within a live service game that you can imagine, and everything under the sun that has happened. And this was a moment where I think, for me personally, at first I was very much sitting in that place of, I don't want to, you know, dramatize anything that's going on, because this could just be another, you know, episode in Destiny's story, so to speak. You know, this could just be another moment that the community is going to remember, and it's going to suck, clearly, but I don't know how bad this is going to be. 4 days later, I think it's hitting me that this is an entirely different kind of event within the community, and much as I am one to sit there and normally say, okay, it's fine, we'll weather the storm, this does feel different, and that's scary. Terrifying, honestly.
Yeah. Cross.
Yeah, I was actually taking a nap. I was out the night before. I came in, I was taking a nap, and then I just happened to roll over and pull up Twitter, and I'm seeing like, all right, somebody got laid off, and I was like, there's another person, just what? And then I'm just scrolling through, and it's just like everyone. I'm like, what is going on? And then that's when the other news hit that I think it was Jason Schreier's article about Final Shape being delayed, and that was, I was like, oh my god, I gotta get out of bed right now. I gotta figure out what's going on, and we immediately went live to go see. But yeah, this has never happened before. Not like this. I mean, we've seen developers come and go, right? But this is a completely different animal.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me that like it feels quite different because of the relationship that we have with Bungie as a studio,
speed and the build,
and the way that they kind of invite a very personal connection to that studio through the way they talk, through the sort of the values that they put up in lights. And so when something like this happens, it feels, yeah, you really kind of feel it in a way that you don't feel it with a lot of other companies. And again, I think it's not just because we are fans of this game. I think it's because of the way this studio is and how it puts itself out there, you know?
Yeah.
So does an event like this kind of change how you feel about Bungie? Do you see Bungie in a different light now post this event than before? Or is it kind of, yeah, do you know what I mean?
I mean, now that we kind of know some more details, like, you know, maybe who is responsible. I talked about this in a video that I talked about, this nebulous upper management, Illuminati, whatever's going on at Bungie. Like, you know, without someone to like focus, like, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you allow people to do that, and blah blah blah. Like, without more of that information, it's just kind of like I've just been more sympathetic to the employees of Bungie, as opposed to like there's like the people who work at Bungie, and then there's Bungie Core, you know.
Sure.
And you know, I've just kind of felt more sympathy for the employees because they're still just trying to make the best game that they possibly can, and I know that they're trying to do that. So it's just tough to evaluate all those things with still so many missing bits of information.
For sure.
It's going to sound really odd to throw it out there, but I think in previous instances when something has gone wrong with Destiny, with this community in particular, the word grieve has been used. I know that when it came to Forsaken and talking about the changes from D1 to D2, it's something you even used in your review, Ralph. But when it comes to this, and watching people that some of us might consider colleagues, some of us might consider acquaintances, and some of us might even consider friends being laid off, it really is the moment of grieving. And I think that the result of that has been, as Dado has said, this massive uproar against effectively the Bungie executives. And I think the real knock-on for that of everyone in the community is that the executives are now that separate group. Before, I think that people would have looked at Bungie as kind of a homogenous unit, When Bungie did something, it was the whole company that was speaking on behalf of everything. It may have been Cosmo or Liana, or back in the day it would have been Deej and Urk delivering the message, but ultimately Bungie was saying it as a whole with their chest. And now it seems as though that line has been drawn between the executive blob and everyone else who works there. And you desperately want one group to succeed, and you're desperately, furiously angry at the other. It's it's a division that perhaps should have always existed because, it's a company. But by that same token, it feels as though it's only become starkly apparent at this moment now, especially now that we know that certain decisions on the executive level were holding back things that the community really wanted.
Yes, and of course, interesting to note that when asked whether executives would see any change in their remuneration, they said that is not currently being considered.
Yep.
How funny. I think one thing that really struck me, I think the thing that kind of struck me the hardest in this whole thing was like Michael Salvatore being let go. Cross, when you heard about that news, what were your thoughts on that?
I thought that was it for any future content after Final Shape.
Really?
That's kind of what that told me. It's like, all right, if you're not keeping him, then are we just not going to get any more big annual expansion set pieces, right? Is it just going to be episodes? And this obviously led me to just start, speculating like crazy, into is Marathon the new baby? Is that the direction Bungie's going to go? And I even put out a video on it, but I since took it down because I was trying to find who's the bad guy here. And I was like, maybe it's Marathon. Maybe that's taking all the attention away. When in reality, it's probably not, right? Like it's probably what we've not seen before, which is this divide between executives. And I think Paul Tassi put out that article too, where, the chain of the command, they were trying to put things into the game and they were putting up the chain of command, but it was getting shot down. That's painful to read. That's painful to see. And then Salvatore going, I just have to assume the worst at that, or at least initially I assumed the worst. At this point, I really don't know. I really don't know what that future is. I don't want to get too ahead right now.
Yeah. I think episodes still will definitely be, like, episode 1 is definitely going to be a thing. Like, they have to have something immediately after. And I do think episodes 2 and 3 are going to also eventually be a thing. But I think Bungie's still trying to figure out, like, what are we doing next? Like, are we gonna have expansions? Like, are we gonna tap into a new 10-year story? Is it gonna be a 5-year story? Is it gonna be a 3-year story? Are we gonna tell smaller stories? Like, they're still probably figuring out the next big cosmic threat in the game, and I think that's where some of that uncertainty is also coming from. Is like they don't probably even know yet.
Yeah, and perhaps even if they did know, this event is seismic. I mean, the way that it was described by both Jason Schreier and Paul Tassi, some departments have been almost entirely wiped out, which makes you sit there and wonder, okay, so if there are plans that were put in place, do they now need to be either benched or reworked entirely? What does the land look like? Nobody is going to know until the actual damage assessment at Bungie is done. And even then, they're going to have to navigate that. They're not going to tell us what that terrain necessarily looks like, because we're only worried about the destination. And at this point, the people who have to make that trek, aka the developers. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely want to come to the sort of future looking stuff at some point in the conversation. For now, though, kind of want to look at like where Destiny is right now, because I mean, does this feel different? Does this time around, because obviously Destiny's had its highs and lows and whatever else, but does this moment in terms of like Destiny's overall health and its trajectory, does this moment feel different than other moments before? What have you sensed from your communities as you've been, like, out there?
I mean, I don't. Someone else talk first. I've been talking first this whole time.
I will say normally this time of the year, like I'm already gearing up my first or second Destiny's dying video. I've got the same copy pasta thumbnail and with the graph going down. it's too real to even make that video this year. Like it's
Sure.
just one of those things where, I saw it probably as early as the final shape reveal. Whereas like last year when Lightfall was revealed, everybody was rushing to pre-order, everybody was hyped, and you were coming off the high of Witch Queen, and then Lightfall being that Infinity War pitch. And so there was no convincing. There was no talking. I mean, everybody saw the trailer and everybody's like, I want it. But the final shape, everyone was still very skeptical. Even though there was some juicy stuff shown to us, everyone was still very skeptical. And then, the landscape this past year, just so many other options, right? Even in September alone, so many other games to play. October really, really dipped. I've actually, enjoyed this past season. I've enjoyed even Festival of the Lost. But, there's a lot of people that have definitely dipped out of Destiny and they just kind of tune in to see what's happening, whether that's just like news, Twitter, or TWABs, right?
Yeah.
I think you touch on it there, Cross, and I completely agree. It's weird. This is actually the most played season I have this year. I looked back through my Guardian rank, commendation score, all the different metrics of how long I've played, and yeah, this is the most played season. And I think it's fair to say that prior to everything that happened this week, things weren't looking brilliant, but they were at least trending in a somewhat positive direction. You were having certain teasers of things like the PvP Strike Team coming up. The next season had some promising things that would be delivered. It was a slow upwards trajectory, but it was at least positive. And that dynamic, and the dynamic of how things are going in Destiny generally, has cratered now. Again, that sounds like a dramatic word, but I think it revolves around the central issue of trust. And you can skin that metaphorical cat 15 different ways, but ultimately it comes down to the idea that people do not necessarily trust that Destiny in its current form, or in a form that people will want to play, will be around. That's based on executives, that's based on the revenue losses. There is no trust. Everyone is tired.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, Daddy, you want to say something?
No, you go.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, because obviously Destiny's been around for a while now, and it's natural that a game would sort of like decline in popularity over time, because that's what happens. We play something for a long time, and then we kind of, want to play other things. Do you think that the current state of Destiny is a result of that kind of general, like, hey, we've been doing this for a while now, or do you think it's because of some specific kind of missteps and decisions and problems within the game that have built up over time to produce this outcome?
It's probably a lot of things all stacking on top of each other. Like, I don't think there's one specific catalyst. Some people might point to Lightfall as being, like, this was the point where things fell apart. And like, I still think Lightfall gameplay wise, I know people have issue with the story, but gameplay wise, I still think it was pretty solid. Like, the Legend campaign was good. My hot take for season 21 was that it's going to be one of the better reviewed seasons when we like go look back on it. Season 22 also is kind of following that path. I kind of expect this year of seasons to actually be some of the best seasons that we're going to get if we just look at them as like a individual season by season basis. But I think a lot of it is just fatigue. I think it's just things haven't changed enough that people are just kind of tired. And it's also the fact that this year is like one of the best years for gaming since like the year 2000, basically. Yeah. So you have so many more options, and you have a fan base that's incredibly fatigued on the game. Even if the game itself is like not in the worst state in the world, it's just people being tired, people wanting something a little fresher in the game. And that's kind of where I've been. It's like I don't get anything out of seasonal activity. They're never gonna make enough stuff for someone like me, where like I'm just crushing Grandmaster Nightfalls like they're nothing, right? They're never gonna have enough for someone like me. So a seasonal activity, I'm gonna tune out. But everybody else is a little bit different, and I think it just depends on how you enjoy the game and what you enjoy about the game that is causing some problems.
Yeah.
I'm going to make reference to something that is infamous in the Destiny community, and I might cause a little controversy here, but there is the GDC talk that was given after Witch Queen. I want to say it was something like June or July 2022. And there are some rather infamous slides that were
BRB.
taken from that. Things such as
back.
Be careful not to overdeliver your creating patterns. I don't want to suggest that that is the entire reason why everything has gone downhill. In fact, I think there are actually points from that GDC talk which hit true and just haven't necessarily been delivered on by Bungie. For example, the trust first, then retention, then revenue slide, I think is actually the right way you do a live service game. It's just trust first seems to have been sort of pushed to the
Forgotten.
back.
Yeah.
The major thing about don't overdeliver your creating patterns, in my mind, is not this idea that Bungie is content to give us a subpar amount of content for every season, just enough to keep us around. It's actually the idea that experimentation and dramatic evolution and things that would genuinely change Destiny and perhaps keep players engaged and interested have been benched in favor of meeting the requirements for the season and then allowing people to potentially push those further down the road to a point at which it's no longer seen as some dramatic innovation, it's just another part of Destiny's slow and iterative process. I think that's contributed a lot to the way that burnout has happened within the player base. I think it's contributed to this idea that Destiny is not evolving quickly enough. It's made things feel stagnant. And it's a problem, not just because that leaves it in a state where it doesn't feel like it's evolving, but also because this is actually a way that Bungie has built their entire studio. It's the mindset of how do you deliver consistent live service content. To their credit, they've done that well as far as the actual cadence of delivery is concerned. Now it's no longer about the quantity and the regularity of content. It's about the actual proof in the pudding, the tasting, the stuff that is being delivered to us. I think that's part of what's making it all fall apart at the moment.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the GDC. I mean, that's a great point, wife. I've got, friends that are, they love Destiny or loved Destiny. And when I first saw the GDC panel, we broke it down and I was like, okay, I see the business aspects. I understand that who Bungie was talking to, who their audience was. Like they're trying to give you this flow chart essentially of how to, run a live game. But majority of other people, when they see it, they immediately lost trust. A lot of my friends that were diehard Destiny fans, when they saw it, they immediately lost trust in Bungie. And so that's been kind of an uphill battle because there's been so many things that have happened since then to show that you're in that revenue cycle, right? Especially with the monetization going up. And so there seems to be no trust there.
Sure.
So yeah, and as far as like, what are the things contributing to the decline of Destiny? I like Dado says, so many things. I mean, so many options of games this past year. Also, you could say diminishing of loot, and whether that's RNG or versus crafted weapons.
Power creep.
Yeah,
well.
power creep. Yeah.
Mm.
You still have players that are saying the game's not hard enough, right? And then all of a sudden you have players that are like the game's too hard, right? And so there's a constant balance and but yeah, I would say that the player base is fatigued in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of contributing factors, and it's really hard to just narrow down on one.
For sure.
If
I as well. Sorry, Buff. You go.
just really quickly to jump in on that. The thing that's really tragic about this is that in that GDC talk, they also describe part of the reason behind not creating patterns and not over delivering. And part of the reason for it supposedly is they don't want people to push for something excellent in case it creates an accidental crunch culture. And it speaks to something which is more insidious within the industry generally, but it's also one of these scary moments where if we as a community are going to sit here and say that we care about the way that the devs at Bungie are being treated, we also need to acknowledge the idea that risks sometimes need to be taken, people are going to need time to recharge, and that occasionally those risks aren't going to work, which is the scariest territory for Bungie to be in, but I feel like that's the territory they have to occupy.
I totally agree. I think something that people definitely overlook about the whole over delivery thing as well. It's been a minute since I've watched it. I need to go back and watch it, but I do think a small part of it as well is just making sure that the amount of stuff you're able to make doesn't cause your company to have to go into crunch mode.
I agree. Yeah,
and
that was kind of my biggest takeaway from what that.
Yeah, I think that is definitely lost on a lot of people. It's like we see so much about like Company X had to crunch 80 hours a week to get this game out the door, and they had to do it for 6 months. But then like you're also like, but also make more stuff. Like,
yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
you know,
totally,
it's a
totally.
tough balance.
But I do think, and I think to Bungie's credit, I think they've been really good about putting the message out there about like they care about their people, and that's why this is what I came back to earlier. Like they're a studio that talks about how they care about their people, and so they have talked about crunch, and they talked about we don't do that anymore, and they've talked about like work-life balance, and they talked about remote working, right? So clearly they've taken a lot of the right steps to avoid having to crunch their staff. And I think the player base has also responded to that. I think most people who are truly engaged in Destiny are like, good, we like that you are not treating your staff poorly. And again, that also makes it a sort of it has a bigger impact on us when all of a sudden 100 of those staff are then sacked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things I see just from an outsider, because I am part of the Destiny community, obviously, but also I moonlight across a lot of other communities by virtue of what I do, right? And definitely one of the things that I see is that like when you talk about Destiny externally, everyone fucking hates Destiny. They hate it. You know what I mean? They really do. And every Reddit thread, Twitter post, whatever, there is just this like visceral hatred of Destiny and Bungie as well. And just this deep distrust of who they are as a company and like their business practices and all that sort of stuff. And I see that and I'm just like, that really sucks. You know what I mean? That really bums me out when I see that, because I'm like, I get a lot of what these people are saying, because I see like content vaulting, for example, and it's like, I totally get like that sucks objectively on many levels. I understand Bungie's justification for it. It relates to what we just talked about in terms of like managing workflow and people and whatever else. But for so many people, that's just like a red line. Obviously, there was sunsetting of stuff before. There's the increasing monetization of Destiny, the FOMO stuff. There's just this thing where it's so hard to talk about Destiny externally. And I do think that one of the reasons why Destiny is in a tricky spot right now is that it's really hard to be able to have conversations about Destiny externally and welcome people into the game, because most of the time they're just like, no, I've heard so many bad things about it. You know what I mean? Am I making point with sense?
No, dude. Anytime something bad happens with Destiny, r/games on Reddit is all over.
Totally.
It. They're
And
all over it. Everyone's all over it all the time. But like, anytime something good happens, it's just crickets.
Sure.
You know,
and I wonder what Bungie
help.
can really. I wonder what Bungie can do to turn that narrative around. You know, because I think it's so core to the success of the game long term. You know what I mean? I look at something like Final Fantasy XIV, which just has this incredible relationship with its community, and it's been able to continue to ride that and build that over time, and it creates this goodwill in the market where people are invited in to test that game, even though the barrier to entry to that game, by the way, is like 400 hours of content to be able to get to the current expansion.
Don't
you know
even
what I mean?
get me started, bro.
Totally.
Don't even get me started.
So here's the thing, though. It's 400 hours of content, but how many dollars is that?
Well, the first 300 hours are literally free.
Exactly.
So.
And there's
The first
yeah.
300 hours are also just cutscenes and walking
Yeah, that's
around.
true.
I hope you're ready for a 300 hour.
We won't get into that.
I'm not going to go into
But
it.
Yeah.
let me make this put this way. Obviously, there's some bigger long-term journey stuff that needs to happen with Destiny, and we'll talk about that in a second. But do you think there are any kind of like quick interventions that Bungie could make in the near term, in the next 3 to 6 months, that are really going to move the needle on where things are at right now, either internally or with the Destiny players, or externally? Like, do you see anything like that, or is it more long-term pitches?
I think, I don't know, they've been so reluctant. To me, like, the number one thing you can do is reduce barrier to entry and like reduce a lot of the stigma of like, the game's so expensive to get into. Like, if you wait for a sale, it's not that bad. But if you're just like wanting to be like, I want to get into Destiny, and you go look at like all the things that you need to buy compared to like how like relevant they are or well received they are, like, I'm not going to tell someone to spend $25 on the Shadowkeep campaign. Why is Shadowkeep still $25, right? Is that built and yes, I know millions of dollars of research has gone into maximizing how much you should charge for a thing to get the money back. But like, you need to start building some goodwill with everyone. Let's make some stuff cheaper. And then otherwise, like, short term, I don't know. You need to give people more access to the game, more, like, people like stuff, you know? People like getting stuff for free. they like
Sure.
getting stuff for cheap. So I think that would be like an interesting start, but it's also just so far into the franchise, and like it's literally the equivalent of watching, you know, the final Avengers movie and you haven't watched any other movie. It's like, how do you
Sure.
onboard those people?
So
Yeah, sure.
I think it comes back to some bigger cultural changes too, but I mean, you know, it start with what was stated at the GDC talk: trust, then retention, then revenue. And, you know, the way that expansions are priced out is just a microcosm of that, I feel. But as for what could change things immediately, I think that there's a really clear point to be made. And I am just going to throw this out there with the clear note that there is no expectation that this is going to happen, because this is typical corporate America for the most part. But the group that has lost trust is not the actual developers at Bungie, it is the executive team. And the problem with that then means that they are the ones who need to act and prove that they have regained not just the trust of the community, but also, of course, of the developers underneath them. And there are ways to do that, but I don't believe that anyone on the executive team is going to do it, because they had the chance when it came to the choice of whether to lay people off or cut their own salaries, and they elected not to cut their own salaries, which I'd remind people, at very least in the video game industry, is not unprecedented. Satoru Iwata, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the late president and CEO of Nintendo, which again has not always been perfect, but back in the time when the Wii U was not selling, he cut his salary in half for 5 months so that no one underneath him needed to be laid off. And that's a leadership decision. It's leading from the front. It's getting in the trenches next to everyone else who's working there, and it's actually doing something that is a tangible show of, I am taking responsibility for the errors that land at my feet. I am not passing the buck. This has to be something that I think is considered at very least, if not done. And I know it's probably never going to happen because, you know, that's just not how this
Sure.
stuff works out. But
Sure.
it's not the developers at Bungie that need to earn back players' trust. It's the executives. It's everyone who decides how much Shadowkeep is getting priced for, 5 years down the line? It's the people who are responsible for $10 shader bundles. You know, this is the kind of stuff
Sure.
that's going to change it. It's cultural. It's not a game development and design decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, looking forward in terms of, you know, let's talk about Final Shape now, because Cross, you mentioned earlier that when like Final Shape reveal happened, you, or at least your community, wasn't really feeling it. What was your response to the Final Shape reveal? Like, was that something? Was it like firing on all cylinders, or what were you feeling about it the first time you saw it?
I mean, I'm always hyped for more content, right?
Sure.
You know, I just looking though, I got chat here on the side and I'm like watching everybody, and so I could definitely see the skepticism from a lot of people. But as far as like what Final Shape's going to bring, I think a lot of people, myself included, got baited into thinking that a new subclass was coming. Although, let's be frank, for Bungie to have given us a new subclass, you know, back to back, that would have been
I'm gonna
that would
call
have been a hell of a feat. And who knows, maybe the pushback to June could possibly do that.
Good night.